Welcome, and settle in. This is another long, unhurried journey through the quieter side of history. The kind of history that does not demand excitement, but instead drifts gently, like wind across an endless steppe. Tonight, we will explore the life of the Mongols. Not only the great leaders whose names echo in legend, but the ordinary men, the riders, who spent their days and nights upon horseback, under vast and merciless skies. You may already have an image of them. Warriors who conquered lands from China to Europe, whose speed and ferocity terrified entire kingdoms. But this story is not told from the halls of power. Tonight, we rest in the saddle, with the common rider, the Mongol horseman whose existence was less about glory and more about endurance. As you listen, allow yourself to imagine the rhythm of hooves, steady and repetitive, like a heartbeat. Imagine the chill of the open plains, the scent of leather and smoke, the endless rolling horizon. There will be 4 parts to this quiet tale. We will begin with the daily life of the horsemen, the hardships and routines that shaped their world. We will then drift to the story of Genghis Khan, who rose from nothing to rule the largest empire the world had ever seen. After that, we will pause to explore the mysteries of Karakorum, the forgotten capital. And at the end, we will glimpse the other side of Mongol life. The Khans at their feasts, where power and luxury contrasted with the struggles of the riders. So, make yourself comfortable. The past will unfold slowly, with no rush, no demand, just steady, calm reflection. Let us begin. Imagine yourself on the endless steppe of Mongolia. The horizon stretches in every direction, a vast, rolling plain dotted with occasional shrubs and tufts of grass, all bending under the constant wind. The sky above is wide and pale, sometimes dotted with clouds that scuttle quickly with the wind. There are no walls, no comforting forests, no rivers running predictably. Here, everything is open, exposed, and yet strangely rhythmic, like the pulse of the land itself. You are a young warrior now. Your day begins before the sun fully rises. The air is biting, carrying the faint metallic scent of frost, mixed with the warmer, muskier scent of your horse. Even before moving, your body is aware of the chill, the stiffness that comes from sleeping on the hard, uneven ground beside the animal that is both companion and necessity. Imagine yourself drawing a deep breath, the cold air filling your lungs, tingling and crisp. Your horse rises and stretches, shaking out its legs and neck, sending small clouds of breath into the morning light. You pat its flank, checking its strength, feeling the warmth and the rhythm of its heartbeat. This horse is your lifeline, your transport, and in many ways, your only friend in a life defined by movement. You will spend more time on its back than in any shelter. The saddle is rough, the stirrups cold, yet it is familiar. It molds to your body, carrying you across miles and miles of plains. Breakfast is simple, if it exists at all. Sometimes it is a small piece of dried curd, hardened under the sun and mixed with a little water or animal fat. Other times, it is fermented mares milk, tangy and slightly fizzy, nourishing enough to start the day. On rare occasions, the meat of a horse, a small portion, is used to sustain life, not in abundance, but in necessity. Drink slowly, savor the warmth, for it will carry you for miles. This is the rhythm of existence. Movement, small nourishment, sleep, and then movement again. You mount your horse, the leather straps creaking softly under your weight. Around you, other riders stir and prepare. Some stretch their backs and legs, others check their bows and quivers. The army is alive, yet quiet in its preparation. Each man understands that the day ahead is long. There is always a distance to cover, always an unseen threat. Perhaps it is the cold, perhaps it is a rival clan, perhaps it is the uncertainty of the steppe itself. The first miles pass steadily, hooves beat against the frozen earth, a constant, soothing rhythm. You fall into it almost instinctively, the motion of riding becoming part of your own breathing. The wind whips against your face, stings your cheeks, and whistles through the gaps in your layered clothing. Imagine the sensation, the persistent cold, yet the strange comfort of movement, of keeping warm through exertion. Clothing is practical. Thick felt coats, layered over furs, protect against the wind, but do little against the deep, penetrating cold. Leather boots are stiff, but necessary, and gloves rough. yet they shield your hands from constant friction against reins and bowstrings. There is no softness here, only the durable and the functional. Yet, with time, these clothes become familiar, almost like an extension of your own body. The steppe offers little respite. There are no towns or villages for rest, only the occasional encampment or the distant smoke of a nomadic tent. When water is found, it is drawn from streams, lakes, or even small pockets of melted snow. Drinking is not a leisurely act. You bend low, scoop water into your hands or a leather skin, and drink quickly, tasting the mineral temps of earth and rock. Every sip is precious. Hours pass. The sun climbs, weak and pale in winter or blazing in summer. Your body aches from long hours in the saddle. Your legs stiffen, your back tenses, yet you press onward. As the horse presses onward, as the rhythm of survival dictates. There is a beauty in this repetition, a comfort in the familiar motions, yet the strain is ever present. Occasionally, small tasks punctuate the monotony. You check your bow, nock an arrow, string and unstring your weapon with deliberate motions. You inspect the horse's hooves, ensuring that they are not cracked or broken. Even small injuries are a concern, for in this life, they can mean the difference between continued movement and being left behind. Each action is deliberate, precise, practiced over countless days of repetition. The wind shifts suddenly, stronger than before, carrying fine dust and grass seeds across your face. You pull your coat tighter, squinting against the abrasive particles. The horses snort nervously, ears flicking, muscles tensing. You feel the subtle change in air pressure, the slight drop in temperature. The weather is another unrelenting teacher on this plane. Storms can arrive without warning. Snow can fall in heavy sheets, and lightning can split the sky with sudden, blinding brilliance. Each day carries the quiet risk of exposure, frostbite, and disorientation. Meals are simple and sparse. When a herd of animals is nearby, you might gather meat, salted or dried, sometimes cooked over a small fire. Occasionally, the warmth of the fire offers brief comfort, and the aroma of smoke mingles with the smell of leather and earth. The taste of boiled grains or dried meat lingers, nourishing but never indulgent. Water, again, is precious. Drinking becomes a mindful act, almost ritualistic, as you measure each swallow, savoring the warmth against the cold inside your body. Sleep comes rarely and fitfully. You wrap yourself in thick furs, lying beside your horse. The rhythmic breathing of the animal, the subtle movement of its body as it shifts in the cold, becomes a lullaby. Yet the night is long, dark, and cold. Sounds of distant wolves or the moan of wind through low hills remind you of the world outside your small circle of warmth. Sleep is not always restful. It is necessary, restorative, only enough to allow you to rise again. Life is not always about survival alone. There are occasional moments of quiet observation. A bird landing on a tuft of grass, the sun dipping below the horizon in a blaze of muted orange and pink, the subtle shift in the wind that signals rain or frost. These small details become anchors, grounding the endless movement in patterns and rhythms. They remind you that life continues, even under hardship, and that there is beauty to be found in endurance. And yet, danger is never far. Rival clans may strike without warning. A poorly timed step, a misjudged path, or an exhausted horse can create catastrophe. You learn to anticipate, to observe, to read the land like a map written in subtle cues. The bend of a river, the tracks of other animals, the sound of distant hooves. Every day is a lesson in vigilance. Disease too is a silent companion. In close quarters with other riders and their horses, illness spreads easily. A cough, a fever, or an infected wound can weaken the strongest man. There is no physician to offer treatment, only the remedies of experience. Rest when possible, warmth, simple herbal teas or poultices, and the hope that the body's own strength will endure. As the day drifts into evening, the shadows lengthen, and the steppe becomes a tapestry of muted colors. The horses slow, grazing briefly, nibbling at dry grass, while you survey the horizon, noting the subtle changes in light and wind. Each movement, each breath, each small action is part of the rhythm of survival. Evenings can bring brief moments of companionship. Warriors share stories in low voices, recounting past raids, or memories of home, or dreams of distant lands. The tone is quiet, subdued, reflective. Laughter is rare, but it emerges occasionally, gentle, soft, like the brush of wind against a tent flap. These moments are fleeting, but they remind you of humanity amidst the relentless pace. Night falls fully, and the steppe is cloaked in darkness. The stars above stretch endlessly, cold and distant. Your body aches from riding, from cold, from hunger, from discipline, and yet you rest. The horse's warmth, the rhythm of its breathing, and the faint flicker of distant campfires offer comfort. You close your eyes, letting the monotony of the day and the gentle repetition of movement lull your mind. This is the life of the ordinary Mongol horseman, relentless, disciplined, sometimes lonely, but deeply attuned to the land, the wind, and the rhythm of the herd. Endless miles, endless cold, endless riding, a life defined by survival, endurance, and the quiet beauty of a horizon that never ends. And with this picture, we prepared to shift our focus from the multitude of riders to the story of the one man who rose from this harsh world to command it, Genghis Khan. Imagine yourself again on the vast, open steppe. The wind whispers over the grass, carrying hints of distant mountains and the faint scent of river mud. This is where our story shifts from the rhythm of countless ordinary riders to the life of one boy. A figure who would grow into one of the most powerful leaders in history, who was known as Temujin in his youth, and later Genghis Khan. You might think of him as a conqueror, a figure etched into history for his vast empire. But tonight, we focus on the quieter, slower, and more human aspects of his journey. Imagine yourself walking beside him, step by step, through a childhood defined not by wealth or comfort, but by uncertainty, challenge, and the slow shaping of character under hardship. Temujin was born into a minor tribal family, small in influence and precarious in position. His father was a chief, respected but vulnerable. When Temujin was still young, his father passed away unexpectedly. Suddenly, the family found themselves adrift in a harsh and unforgiving world. The winds seemed colder, the nights longer, the danger more immediate. Hunger was never distant, and trust was always conditional. From this early loss, Temujin learned lessons that would guide him for the rest of his life. You can almost feel his small hands gripping the reins of a horse, his eyes watching every movement of those around him. He observed the constant negotiation of survival, alliances that could be fleeting, friendships that could turn to betrayal, enemies that could appear without warning. Each day required vigilance, patience, and subtle judgment. Imagine the young boy trudging along frozen rivers, the soles of his boots stiff and cracking, the wind pressing against his small frame. He gathered wood for fires, fetched water from distant streams, and carried messages between families and clans. The physical effort was constant, but the mental work was just as exhausting, calculating who could be trusted, who might betray, and what risks were worth taking. Each choice mattered, and each mistake could be dangerous. As Temujin grew, he began to gather companions, friends who would become the foundation of his future leadership. These were not soldiers yet, but individuals who recognized his intelligence, his fairness, and his ability to survive against the odds. Together, they learned the rhythms of the steppe, the ways to move silently, to read the land, and to anticipate the movements of others. You can imagine walking beside him, feeling the sun rise over frost-covered grass, listening to the soft thrum of horses' hooves in the distance, and understanding that each mile carried more than just physical distance. It carried strategy, survival, and the quiet shaping of a future leader. Rival clans constantly tested him. They would attempt to ambush, to coerce, to undermine, and yet each challenge taught him patience, caution, and resilience. Imagine a late evening, sitting beside a small fire with companions, watching shadows dance against the tents as distant figures approached. The tension is subtle but present, the air charged with the quiet awareness of risk. These were formative moments, teaching the young Temujin how to assess danger, how to inspire loyalty, and how to move with both caution and confidence. Temujin's adolescence was marked by a series of carefully measured steps toward leadership. Marriages were arranged, not for love but for strategic alliances, binding families together and creating networks of support. Raids were planned, carefully calibrated to avoid unnecessary loss while consolidating influence. Disputes were mediated with tact, sometimes with force, sometimes with negotiation, but always with an eye toward long-term stability. Imagine the slow, deliberate movements as he negotiates, as he observes, as he learns the balance between strength and diplomacy. By the time he reached early adulthood, Temujin had survived betrayals, famine, and exile. His reputation had begun to grow, not through flamboyant displays, but through careful, consistent action. You can picture the small campfires, the quiet nights under the stars, where he would study the behavior of his companions, the patterns of the land, and the weaknesses of rivals. Each observation was a lesson, each decision a step on a path that would eventually become an empire. The unification of the Mongol tribes was not instantaneous. It was a gradual process, achieved through careful calculation, patience, and understanding of human nature. Temujin's leadership style combined strict discipline with personal example. He rode alongside his men, shared their hardships, and never asked more of them than he himself endured. Imagine the sound of wind through tents, the rhythmic pounding of hooves, the low hum of conversation around small fires as loyalty is forged and alliances tested. Temujin's rise involved both military strategy and social insight. He reorganized the tribal structure into units that could operate efficiently, rewarded merit over birth, and cultivated loyalty through fairness and reliability. Imagine standing beside him during a planning session, the maps drawn crudely on animal skins, the flicker of firelight illuminating determined faces. Every decision was deliberate, every action calculated, and every victory measured not just in immediate gain, but in the trust and cohesion it created for future campaigns. Even as his influence grew, Temujin maintained the rhythms of the life he had always known. He continued to rise early, to ride long distances, to sleep briefly, and to observe the world with a quiet intensity. There was no indulgence, no ease, only the steady march of preparation, movement, and foresight. You can almost feel the leather of his saddle, the weight of his bow, the crisp bite of the steppe air against his face, and the soft murmur of his companions' voices as they navigate each day together. The early campaigns that expanded his influence were meticulously planned. Temujin studied terrain, supply lines, the habits of opposing clans, and the strengths and weaknesses of his own forces. Imagine a quiet dawn before a skirmish, the sky pale and cold, horses stamping the frozen ground, and warriors adjusting armor and quivers in silence. The strategy is as much mental as it is physical. The goal is not only victory but survival, cohesion, and the gradual accumulation of trust and power. By his mid-20s, Temujin had achieved a remarkable unification of clans. The young boy who had once been vulnerable and dependent had transformed into a leader whose presence commanded attention. He had learned to balance ruthlessness with fairness, discipline with compassion, and strategy with adaptability. Imagine watching him speak to his companions, gestures calm but firm, voice measured, carrying the authority of someone who has earned respect not by birthright, but through consistency and wisdom. Finally, he earned the name Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. But even with this title, he remained tied to the rhythms of the ordinary rider. He still mounted horses daily, endured the same cold winds, and shared the sparse meals of the steppe. Power did not shield him from hardship, it only expanded the scale of his responsibility. You can imagine him looking over the horizon, contemplating both the immediate dangers of travel and the long-term vision of empire. As you picture his rise, allow yourself to imagine the quiet moments, the stillness before dawn, the soft crunch of frost beneath hooves, the rhythmic sway of tents and fires, the low murmur of loyal companions. Each mile, each decision, each challenge was a step toward the empire that would stretch across continents, a reminder that greatness is often built in the quiet, steady accumulation of effort and understanding. And so, we linger here on the horizon, witnessing the slow, deliberate unfolding of a life that would shape history. From the hardship of childhood to the disciplined rise of a leader, Genghis Khan's journey is a testament to endurance, patience, and the subtle mastery of both human nature and the land itself. With this image in mind, the solitary rider growing into a universal ruler, we are ready to shift our focus from the man to the places he would shape, the cities and capitals that rose under his command, carrying secrets, culture, and quiet mysteries that endure even today. Our next segment will take us to Karakorum, the lost capital of the Mongol Empire, where the story of the steppe meets the stillness of stone and history's quiet whispers. Now, let us shift our gaze from the man himself to the places shaped by his vision. Beyond the vast, rolling plains of Mongolia lies Karakorum, the lost capital of the Mongol Empire. Imagine approaching it in your mind's eye, stepping slowly along a path that stretches across windswept grasslands, the horizon rolling endlessly, until a settlement emerges, quiet, distant, and mysterious. Karakorum was more than a city. It was a symbol, a convergence of cultures, ideas, and ambition. Genghis Khan's vision was not solely conquest, it was also governance, and in Karakorum that vision took a subtle, delicate shape. Yet, as you imagine the city, know that much of it remains hidden in time. Archaeology has revealed fragments, but much is left to the imagination. It is in this space, the balance between what we know and what we only suspect, that the story unfolds, gently, like a whisper across the plains. Picture walking into Karakorum as a quiet observer. The city is not immense by modern standards, yet it is bustling in its own rhythm. The streets are packed with traders, artisans, and visitors from distant lands, each bringing spices, fabrics, and ideas from China, Persia, and beyond. Imagine the subtle fragrance of dried herbs mixed with faint smoke from cooking fires, mingling with the scent of freshly trodden earth and worn leather. The air is alive with soft murmurings, the clink of metal tools, the hum of conversation, the occasional distant bray of a donkey or the clatter of carts over uneven stone. At the center of the city stands the palace, modest yet imposing in its design. It is constructed not of stone, as in Europe, but of timber and clay, rising with a quiet elegance that reflects both utility and authority. Imagine yourself wandering through its courtyards, hearing the distant sound of water from a small fountain, feeling the warmth of the sun as it filters through latticed work, and sensing the careful order maintained by attendants and guards alike. Every detail is functional, yet quietly graceful. Karakorum's mystery lies not only in its layout, but in its fleeting history. Scholars debate the full extent of its size and splendor. Ancient texts describe grand halls adorned with golden cups, silk banners, and treasures collected from across the empire. Yet excavations reveal remnants of simple structures, post holes marking long-vanished buildings, and fragments of pottery hinting at daily life. Imagine running your hand gently over the weathered clay, feeling the smooth edges of a shard, connecting silently with a life lived centuries ago. The city was a meeting point of cultures, a place where the East met the West in quiet exchange. Traders brought spices from India, silks from China, and metals from the distant mountains. You can almost hear the soft shuffle of sandals on compacted earth, the low hum of foreign tongues blending into a gentle chorus. Karakorum was not merely a military hub, it was a cultural nexus, a subtle web connecting distant lands, and yet its transient nature leaves it cloaked in enigma. Consider the Great Silver Tree, a centerpiece described in historical accounts. Imagine it rising delicately in a courtyard, branches adorned with golden leaves, small figures moving along its limbs to dispense wine into cups. Whether this was literal or symbolic, it evokes the quiet interplay between imagination, ambition, and the rituals of power. You can see the soft glint of sunlight on metal, the muted laughter of courtiers, the slow pouring of wine, and yet the scene feels distant, like a dream you cannot quite hold. Life in Karakorum was also practical. Artisans hammered tools in the early morning light, bakers prepared simple breads, and children played quietly near low walls. The rhythm of daily life mirrored the broader Mongol way: endurance, discipline, and adaptation to both the natural and social environment. Imagine observing these moments, The soft gestures, the careful routines, the subtle repetition of tasks, each one grounding the city in order and continuity. Archaeological mysteries abound. Some foundations hint at buildings far larger than expected, while others suggest spaces whose purpose remains unclear. Was a hall used for administration, ceremonial gatherings, or simple lodging? The earth preserves no clear answer, only fragments and impressions. Walking among these traces, you feel the gentle pull of history's shadow, the knowledge that countless hands shaped this space, and that so much has quietly slipped away into time. The city's decline adds another layer of quiet intrigue. After Genghis Khan's death, Karakorum continued under his successors, yet it was eventually overshadowed by other centers of power. Fires, natural decay, and changing political landscapes left much of it buried beneath the plain. Imagine standing in the empty fields now, the wind moving softly over long grass, and sensing the invisible presence of what once stood their homes. Markets, halls, and courtyards, echoes of a vibrant city now silent. Even today, Karakorum invites reflection rather than excitement. It is a place of subtle clues and soft impressions. Imagine yourself tracing faint pathways, noticing patterns of stone and soil, imagining the lives of those who walked there. The quiet tension of guards on duty, the careful negotiation of traders, the soft laughter of children, the measured authority of palace officials. Each detail offers insight, yet maintains the gentle, calming distance essential for reflection. The mysteries of Karakorum extend beyond its structures to the culture it housed. Artifacts reveal connections to far-off lands, coins stamped with unfamiliar marks, ceramics bearing motifs from distant civilizations, fragments of texts written in multiple languages. Each item is a small portal into the larger, complex world of the Mongol Empire, a reminder that even in the midst of harsh landscapes and disciplined riders, there was beauty, subtlety, and intellectual curiosity. Consider the soft rhythm of daily routines in Karakorum. Artisans rose early, their hands guided by practice and repetition. Traders counted and recounted coins, their voices soft, almost hypnotic in monotony. Horses were fed and groomed, fires tended, water drawn from nearby sources. There was a quiet order, a subtle music to these tasks. You can imagine walking among them, letting the repetition and calm purpose of their lives settle gently into your own awareness. At night, the city transformed. Fires burned low in hearths, casting flickering light across walls. The scent of wood smoke mingled with the faint aroma of cooking grains. Guards patrolled slowly, horses shifted in stables, and the distant hum of conversation faded into near silence. Stars stretched across the sky, immense and cold, yet comforting in their constancy. Imagine sitting quietly, observing, feeling the subtle balance between human activity and the vastness of the steppe beyond the city walls. Karakorum, in its quiet splendor and mystery, invites gentle contemplation. It is not the flash of conquest that captures attention here, but the enduring presence of human effort, adaptation, and cultural synthesis. Walking through its imagined streets, observing the routines of its inhabitants, and tracing the faint outlines of long-lost structures, you begin to understand the subtle beauty of endurance, the quiet power of organization, and the patience required to build a center of civilization on such a remote and challenging plane. Even the unanswered questions contribute to its calm allure. Why were certain structures placed where they were? What rituals took place in the central halls? How did travelers from distant lands experience this city? The silence of history allows the mind to wander gently, imagining possibilities, tracing patterns, and settling into the rhythm of discovery without urgency. As we leave Karakorum in our mind's eye, imagine the soft wind sweeping over abandoned foundations, the faint rustle of grass over forgotten paths, and the distant, echoing presence of thousands of lives that once moved here. The city remains a quiet testament to human endurance, ingenuity, and subtle ambition, bridging the harsh realities of the steppe with the gentle intrigue of civilization. And now, having lingered among the echoes of Karakorum, we prepare to shift focus once again. From the quiet stones and lost streets of the Mongol capital, we move to the other side of life in this empire. the feasts and ceremonies of the khans themselves, where power and luxury existed in gentle contrast to the daily struggle of the horsemen. There we will glimpse the calm, measured indulgence that was as much a part of the Mongol world as the endless riding, the frozen plains, and the quiet rise of Genghis Khan. Now we turn from the quiet mysteries of Karakorum and the endless rhythm of the steppe to the more measured, indulgent side of Mongol life. Imagine stepping softly into a large, open tent, the canvas walls swaying gently in the evening wind, illuminated by the warm flicker of lanterns and firelight. This is the domain of the khans, where authority, culture, and ritual converge. The tent is immense, its interior divided with careful order. Carpets line the floor, embroidered with intricate patterns, their colors muted yet rich. Low tables are set with polished wooden bowls, golden cups, and platters of dried fruits, fermented dairy, and preserved meats. You feel the soft give of the floor beneath your knees as you approach, the faint aroma of roasted meat blending with the sweet tang of horse milk fermented into air. The khan sits at the center, elevated slightly on cushions, a subtle sign of authority rather than ostentation. Around him, his close family, advisors, and trusted warriors gather. The air is alive, yet calm, filled with quiet conversation, measured laughter, and the occasional clink of cups. Imagine yourself among them, noticing the way each gesture is deliberate, each movement contributing to the rhythm and ceremony of the feast. The feast itself is not merely about sustenance, it is a display of culture, diplomacy, and hierarchy. Dishes are simple but carefully prepared. Fermented mare's milk is poured into small cups, its sour tangy taste a contrast to the richness of dried meats and hearty breads. Stews simmer slowly over small fires, their aroma subtle yet pervasive, drawing you gently into the rhythm of communal nourishment. Each sip, each bite, is deliberate, unhurried, savored slowly in accordance with centuries of practice. Music drifts softly through the tent. Lutes, flutes, and percussion instruments provide the gentle background, their tones low and undemanding. The melodies are repetitive, almost hypnotic, reinforcing the calm atmosphere and the gentle pacing of the evening. You might hear a distant drumbeat, steady and unhurried, mimicking the rhythm of hooves on the steppe, connecting the luxury of the khan's tent with the endurance of the warriors outside. Conversation flows in quiet tones. Advisors discuss strategies, envoys from distant lands offer gifts and information, and the khan listens with measured attention. You can almost feel the weight of each decision, the careful consideration, the deliberate pauses before responses. Power here is exercised quietly, thoughtfully, a reflection of both authority and the cultivated patience that defines leadership in this world. The feasting rituals are subtle yet meaningful. Cups are filled and offered, gestures repeated with precision. Toasts are quiet, respectful, acknowledging loyalty, alliances, or achievements. Imagine the gentle tilt of a golden cup, the soft clink against another, the measured, polite sip. Every motion is deliberate, reinforcing hierarchy and tradition without urgency or spectacle. Food and drink serve more than nourishment, they are symbolic of the empire's vastness. Dried fruits from distant lands, spices carried across deserts, and preserved meats reflect the Mongol connections spanning Asia and Europe. You might close your eyes and imagine the subtle sweetness of raisins mingling with the tang of fermented dairy, the texture of dense, flat breads, the aroma of smoked meat. Each element is part of a larger story, a quiet testament to reach, organization, and endurance. The khan's personal routines during these feasts are calm and deliberate. They rise and lower themselves with practiced ease, communicate through measured gestures, and ensure that attendants and servants move silently and efficiently. Imagine yourself observing, noting the precision of each action, the subtle choreography that maintains order, and the quiet dignity that permeates the room. Even in indulgence, there is restraint. Even in abundance, there is discipline. Animals remain part of the scene. Horses are tethered outside, shifting gently, snorting softly in the cool night air. The scent of straw and horse mingles with that of the tent, a subtle reminder of the connection between the luxury within and the harsh realities beyond. Warriors sit quietly, sharing meals with the Khan when invited, or standing respectfully nearby, maintaining a balance between service and presence. The tent's walls sway with the wind. The firelight flickers, casting long, gentle shadows across carpets and cushions. The subtle crackle of wood echoes softly. You might imagine yourself reclining slightly, letting the warmth seep into your body, feeling the gentle rhythm of life at the heart of the empire, where comfort is measured and indulgence is tempered by tradition. Even the children of the Khan's family participate quietly. They observe, learn rituals, and play softly in corners, their movements subdued yet deliberate. The next generation is being educated in the rhythms of governance, the subtleties of diplomacy, and the quiet endurance that sustains the empire. Imagine the soft brush of a child's hand against a cushion, the gentle laughter, the careful imitation of adult gestures, all unnoticed in the larger sweep of the tent's calm life. Night deepens, and the tent grows quieter. Conversations dwindle, music slows, and the fire burns low. Attendants move methodically, replenishing drinks, clearing plates, folding blankets, and ensuring that order is maintained as darkness settles over the camp. The faint chill of the night air seeps through the canvas, but the warmth within is steady, comforting, and constant. Outside, the steppe stretches endlessly, dark and silent. The horses paw gently at the ground, the wind whispers over the grass, and the distant stars cast pale light across the plains. Within the tent, there is warmth, ritual, and measured indulgence. The Khan rests, the warriors nearby reflect, and you, as the observer, are invited to settle into the calm rhythm of this world, a world of both power and tranquility, of authority exercised with subtlety, of tradition maintained with care. Even in luxury, the Mongol Khans remain intimately tied to the rhythms of the steppe. They are not isolated from the elements, from the horses, from the discipline that shaped the empire. Imagine the faint chill that reminds them of their soldiers, the distant hoofbeats that echoed the life of the warriors, the subtle sense of grass and fire that connect indulgence to endurance. Each sensory detail reinforces the gentle continuity between power and survival, between feast and journey, between city and steppe. As the night wears on, the tent grows still. Soft breaths, gentle shifts, the faint scrape of cloth on floor, these are the lullabies of the Mongol Khan's world. You can picture the Khan reclining, the glow of the fire warming his face, a golden cup in hand, horse milk tasting tangy and familiar. Around him, companions rest quietly, tents swaying softly, and the empire's rhythm continues, steady and unhurried. In this moment, the contrast is clear. The ordinary rider struggles against the steppe. The city preserves culture and mystery, and the Khan enjoys measured comfort and ritual. Yet all these lives are intertwined, bound by endurance, discipline, and subtle awareness of the vast land they inhabit. You can feel the balance of effort and reward, of hardship and ceremony, of movement and rest. As your mind lingers in this warm, flickering light, you can allow yourself to drift gently, imagining the quiet continuity of Mongol life, endless plains, disciplined riders, mysterious cities, and the calm feasts of rulers. Each detail, each subtle gesture, each measured motion becomes part of a soothing rhythm, a gentle cadence that carries you toward rest. And with that, our exploration of Mongol life comes to a close. From the hardship of the ordinary horseman to the rise of a ruler, from the mysteries of Karakorum to the measured luxury of the Khans, we have journeyed across centuries and landscapes, observing endurance, culture, and subtle human experience. The steppe stretches silently outside your mind's eye, vast, unbroken, and eternal, inviting calm, reflection, and sleep. As our journey through the vast Mongol world comes to a close, take a moment to breathe deeply and allow yourself to rest in the quiet rhythm of the steppe. Imagine the wind sweeping softly over endless plains, brushing against the grass, carrying the faint sense of earth and horse, of fires long extinguished, and of distant cities whose stones still whisper secrets of the past. You have traveled alongside the ordinary horsemen, feeling their endurance, sensing the endless miles beneath their hooves, and understanding the subtle lessons of hardship, discipline, and quiet survival. You have walked with Temujin, observing his careful rise from vulnerable boy to Genghis Khan, absorbing the deliberate patience, the strategic insight, and the gentle command that defined his life. You lingered in the lost streets of Karakorum, tracing the faint outlines of civilization, imagining markets, workshops, and the quiet mysteries that endure even after centuries. And finally, you stepped into the warm glow of the Khan's feasting tents, where measured indulgence, ritual, and cultural sophistication created a gentle balance to the steppe's rigorous demands. All of these experiences, though separated by context and social standing, share a subtle rhythm, the cadence of endurance, the quiet repetition of daily life, the gentle pulse of human endeavor across a vast and challenging land. You can feel it now in your own body, in the rise and fall of your chest as you breathe, in the slow circulation of blood through tired muscles, in the soft calm that spreads from head to toes. History, as you have seen tonight, is not only about dramatic battles or famous names. It is about the small, measured acts that shape lives. A horse groomed at dawn, a careful negotiation, the silent placement of a foundation stone, the gentle tilting of a golden cup. It is the quiet persistence of humanity, its ingenuity, its endurance, and its ability to adapt to even the harshest landscapes. And in this, there is comfort. There is a gentle reminder that even in the face of hardship, there is rhythm, purpose, and continuity. Allow your mind to drift through the images you have visited tonight. The endless plains stretching under a pale sky, the flicker of fires in distant tents, the soft murmur of voices in Karakorum's alleys, the warm glow of lanterns in the Khan's feast hall. Let them settle like a soft blanket over your thoughts, grounding you in calm observation rather than urgency, in gentle curiosity rather than excitement. Feel the slow rhythm of the steppe in your own heartbeat, the subtle harmony of wind, hoof, and whispering voices echoing in your imagination. The horses rest, the Khans recline, the city sleeps, and now, so too can you. The world of the Mongol Empire, vast, disciplined, and mysterious, invites quiet reflection. There is no rush, no call to action, only the gentle unfolding of history and the soft cadence of time. As you drift further into rest, let the steppe stretch endlessly before you. The plains are open, the horizon vast, the air still but full of quiet motion. Let your mind wander gently across hills and rivers, tents and palaces, horsemen and Khans, carrying with you the calm knowledge of endurance, adaptation, and subtle human wisdom. And now, in this gentle stillness, allow sleep to come. The story has been told, the rhythm established, and the vast Mongol world rests beneath the stars. You, too, may rest, carried softly by the memory of hooves on the steppe, fires burning low, and the quiet presence of lives lived long ago. Good night.